Alright, so day 3 here, it'll actually run and idle a bit now at 1500 to 1000 RPM or so if I keep my foot on the throttle. We got the radiator patched and it's holding coolant now and proper firing order and all that. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is pull this Edelbrock off here and put a rebuild kit in it. So I think the needle and seats are sticking on it and it's probably pretty gummed up. So I got a carb rebuild kit from O'Reilly's where they price matched me at the Jegs pricing, which was pretty nice of them. So anyway, we're gonna yank this thing off here and get it rebuilt and see how she does. But it's definitely flooding. When I shut the car off, the fuel will just keep running into the engine. So definitely needs some work on it. Alright, 4 bolts, a few vacuum lines and a fuel line off, and the Edelbrock is down and away. And pretty absurd intake manifold on this engine. From it running, it definitely doesn't have a cam or anything of that nature. It's some 80s roller engine. So this is a pretty ambitious intake for this engine, but it's what we got on here, so we'll make do with it. Doesn't look like it's seen a whole lot of use. There's not a lot of fuel or carbon buildup on the intake, especially since it's running a PCV system. So this engine's been they've been into it fairly recently, but anyway, we're going to get this carburetor rebuilt and get her slapped back on here. Alright, so doing more work on the Mazda here today, and got the radiator back in it with the JB Weld Flex Steel patch. I got this cooling systems tester that I've had, and I've pumped up the pressure to 10 pounds, and that's the radiator cap that's on it, so it should never exceed this pressure. So anyway, we're holding good pressure. We've been holding it for 30 minutes, so that shows that our radiator is definitely sealed, and our cooling system as well is sealed, including head gaskets, at least on the coolant port side. So I'm encouraged to that point. So just working through a few more things. The fuel system, as you saw, the carburetor had a ton of crap in it. So I'm going to go ahead and put this fuel hose here in a bottle and crank it over for a while, and then we'll take a look at you know, if we got any crap in our tank, because I definitely saw some rust in the float bowl of the carburetor, and that had to have come from the tank. So anyway, we got a clear bottle, and we'll rig it all up and crank it over and see what we get out. Alright, we're in the car after a week, so hopefully we have no battery draws in this electrical system, which is pretty darn janky. We should have some power to crank this engine over. Super. So, as you see here, we got the intake manifold uncovered, so that if that were to be covered and I were to turn the engine over, it's going to try and pull vacuum from anywhere, and it could blow out our intake seals. So anyway, we'll go ahead and crank, see what we get out of the fuel pump. Ooh, obviously there's fuel in that intake. Let the starter cool off a bit. Alright, that should be enough of a sample. We can see what we're pulling from the bottom of the gas tank. Alright, so this is our sample. You can see it's pretty yellow, pretty lacquered up from sitting, so it's probably not the greatest quality fuel at this point, but I don't see any rust and a ton of particulate in it, so I feel comfortable putting our rebuilt carburetor back on this engine. And with the carburetor being off a fresh rebuild, we'll put a few inline filters before the carburetor, so if there is crap in the tank that's floating around, we can go ahead and catch that before it gets to our carburetor and gunks it all up again. Alright, we got our carb all cleaned up and everything's ready to go back on, so got the rebuild kit in it. And let's get this thing on here and get her fired up. Alright, we got the carb on and 3 inline filters there because we want to protect our investment in our carb rebuild. And even though we checked what's in the tank, you know, who knows what might come up. So for a little bit we'll run all that on there. And we got our radiator patch, so let's key this thing up and see if she'll run. Give it 2 pumps. Ooh. Sweet, we got an idle. Got a lot of gas in the oil from the needle and seed sticking, so it's probably pretty darn thin. But it's running, so that's a step in the right direction.